Well, hello there, and let me again say welcome to the Okanogan Forest channel. I'm going to try to make a little video and just take you around and show you some things. But before I do that, I want to say very clearly I'm not a video editor. My content is all just raw video from my cell phone video, and so it's pretty rough. And so most of the time you've got to actually be interested in what I'm showing, because it can be a little bit rough in terms of the quality of the video production. It's just raw video, as I said. So I'm going to try to unhook the camera now and go around and just try to point out some things to you, and see if this has of interest, if it's of interest to people. So here we go. Be patient with me. Well, I first okay. Now I'm just going to pivot around a little bit, and you can see we were standing next to the side of the cabin. But what I want to do right now is kind of go around here like this and just kind of look down in the side here. Down there you can hear the stream going. It's going full speed. A lot of snow runoff going down the stream now. This stream here is seasonal. It's here probably 10 and a half, 11 months of the year, and then at the hottest time of the summer, the stream goes underground, basically. There's still a lot of water around, but it's goes underground, and there are a couple of springs on the place, and they keep having water come out, so that's kind of interesting. So let's walk over here, and you can see the mountains over on the top there. Look up on top, you can just still see there's a little snow left up on top of the mountain, and it's really melting fast. I'm sure in just a few days it'll be completely gone. That flag, of course, I got in Midway, British Columbia, Canada. And I like to brag, and it's not really bragging, but that's the closest hardware store to my place. I'm, as the crow flies, about 10 miles from the border, and I can go through the Midway access point. And Midway is a beautiful little town with a nice library and a hardware store and a grocery store, and it's really quite pleasant. And it's a good excuse to leave the country, actually, for a little while. I was only up there for probably, I don't know, 45 minutes when I went up to buy this flag, and it was nice to have. And again, the reason I have it in camp is that I want to show respect for both countries, both cultures, and people on both sides of the line. So let's look over here. And again, if you look up on the mountain across the way, right there in the saddle, I think you can probably see some snow on top. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit. Again, my video skills are limited. There you go. You can kind of see just a little bit of the snow that's left. And if you look at other videos on this site, you'll see videos in the wintertime when there's a lot of snow here, and that of course is quite different from now here in spring. Spring is a beautiful time to be here. So let's go back down to where we were. There. And here is the American flag. I like to have flags in camp. It dresses the camp up a little bit. And of course the American flag is a little bit more complicated, because I always want to make sure and take it down at night, and some of the other flags I can just leave up, which I do. But that one comes down at night and goes up in the morning with sunrise. Anyway, welcome to the Okanogan Forest channel, and I'll just pivot around a little bit. You can see a big blue tarp there. That's actually my trailer. And in the winter, I have the tarp set up like that so that all the snow comes off. But in the summer, and I haven't done it yet because I'm up here by myself, but in the summer I've got a framework that makes that into kind of a, I don't know, a cover that sticks out, and you can see right in the foreground there are a couple of cinder blocks, and I tie to that, and I've got a nice covered area where I can put my chairs and so on and so forth. And the trailer is really very stable, so I can put stuff up there, cook off of it, any number of things. Then right here in front of me, you can see my barbecue system, which is just a couple of old semi-truck rims put together, and then I've got some cinder blocks for a kind of a cooking, organizing space, and a couple of logs out to sit on. And then there's also in the foreground, you can see there is some wood that we burn. But I don't cook out when I'm here by myself. I don't do it much. No, there's my buddy. He decided to come and get the peanuts that I leave for him. There you go. And I talk to him a lot, and he's kind of a happy guy, and he keeps me company in camp, so I try to keep him supplied with peanuts. Where'd he go? There he goes. Oh, I know where he's going. He's going over and he's putting them in his stash. He's got a stash over in the trees just on the other side of the blue covered trailer, and he keeps his peanuts over there for hard times. And he's really kind of an unhappy guy if I don't give him peanuts. Anyway, you can also see there's the green outhouse. We might walk over there and take a look at it and see what it's like. It's really nice to have that. It makes things so much nicer. As we go around, there's the transportation, mountain transportation, which I've had now for 27 years. And it's still going, still gets me up the road. And it's nice to have that kind of vehicle when you come up into the mountains like this, although the road up from the paved road here is only a couple of miles, but in winter it can be problematic. So let's just move now a little bit, go to another place where we can talk. Again, be patient with me as we move around. Now I've actually had, let me go out here. There we go. I've actually had the container, I call it the cabin, but it's really a container. It's a refrigerated reefer container cabin. And the reason I got it is that it's got tremendous insulation. So when you're up here in the wintertime and it's, in January and it might be 5 or even 10 degrees below zero at certain times, you can be warm as snug as a bug in a rug with the wood stove going. And the nice windows that I just, not too long ago, you can look at the earlier videos showing them being put in, but those two windows really have made a world of a difference inside the cabin. I now can sit and have my breakfast and look out the window and see the sunrise, and it's very pleasant. You can see on the far right side, there's an antenna sticking up, and that's my antenna for ham radio. I communicated with the local hamnet last night, and a hamnet is a group of people that get on a repeater and they check in to make sure their equipment is running and say hello and say how their day's been and some things like that, which is mostly social. But I originally got the ham radio system because I wanted some kind of a communication tool in the case of some kind of an emergency up here or some other thing. And it's turned out to be a lot of fun and a lot of social things that I'm able to do too that are really kind of neat. Now let's turn around here and you can get a different view of the barbecue area. And I was up here with my good friend Jeff a while back, and he cooked one of the best steaks I've ever had on that semi-truck rim. It was just delicious. I don't know where he got the meat. He brought it up, and of course he's a connoisseur when it comes to good eating and all of that. He's got a little French blood in him, I think, and he just did a wonderful job, and it was great. We sat out here and had a wonderful meal. You can also look underneath. The container cabin is up off the ground. It's on a ecology block, so it sits up a couple feet. And right there under the second window, you can see that's where I have some wood stored. Ron, my good friend Ron, brought that wood up for me and put it in there. And so I'm just going to leave it there for a while until it really cures and is ready to go. All right, we're gonna move again, I guess. We'll go around like this. Take a look in a minute about my porch or my doorway right here. And of course the sun isn't doing us any favors from this angle, but you can see I have a couple of chairs out, and I have two blocks for chopping wood. Again, my good friend Ron brought both of those up for me. And sitting, it's kind of red, sitting in the chair there right by the door is the splitter that I use. It's kind of an interesting splitter, but it works really well for me and I like it. This cabin is so efficient in terms of insulation that I don't actually have to use much fuel. It's very easy on fuel, believe me. Now the other thing you can see hanging by the door there, it looks like it's a wine bottle bag, which it is. But I'll tell you what I use that for. I keep my butter and my eggs in that when I'm up here. And of course at night when it's that cold, then it stays cold through the day. And that works since I don't have a refrigerator. In the summer when it's really hot, I have a ice box. But most of the time, this is more than adequate for what I do. If I want to have a piece of meat that I'm bringing from town, or excuse me, or some eggs, that's just fine. Let's take a walk over and look at the outhouse. We'll look at the view from there, and then we'll go inside the cabin and talk about some of the things there. Now, my good friend Bob, who lives down the valley now, built this cabin for me, a number of years ago, or this outhouse, I should say. And I just said to him, build me an outhouse, and he did. And it really, really hard to complain. It's just a wonderful thing. It doesn't get used much because I'm not up here all the time, but it just was thoughtfully designed and works really well. So let's open the door and just have a look inside. All right, let me lean here and get the door. Like I said, this is not edited, so you gotta be a little patient with me. Okay, we'll back up just a little bit so you can see inside. That's the outhouse. I put up a couple maps of the local area, and I've got some literature hanging there to the left that you can see. One is on bear safety tips. The other one is life of the cougar. And then there's also one on wolves. We have all of those animals up here at various times. Anyway, this is a really nice outhouse that works well. And gosh, I've had it a long time, and I didn't even ask him for it, but you can see that beautiful window. And the window lets in all that light. You can close the door and you got plenty of light, and it just really quite a wonderful value for what I paid him to build it, for sure. Okay, I'm going to close this door. We'll take a look at the view from here of camp, because I kind of like it. And then we'll go into the cabin. Bear with me while I get organized. Now you can see the mountain vehicle and the cabin and the pad. I call this the pad. This pad was done by a local heavy equipment operator named Tony. He's the most amazing guy. And again, like so many things, if you just trust people that are good people with their expertise, they'll do things for you. And so I said to him, I had walked the property when I first got it. And I said, well, I need a flat place for my camp. And could he do this and this and this? And of course, there were a number of trees here. You can kind of see, actually, there's a couple of them that were taken out. And then I did make one mistake. One of the things Tony said to me was, well, where do you want me to put these trees? And I said, well, just put them over here. Well, he dumped them over here. And he would have taken them anywhere because he had heavy equipment. I should have had him take them off someplace and leave this meadow completely clean, but I didn't do that. Well, it turns out that squirrel that we saw earlier, this is where he lives. So it's not so bad. And over time, the forest reclaims itself and grows anew. So it's not as big a eyesore as it might have been. Anyway, I think I learned something from that. The other thing I want to say is that Tony did a great job with bringing the container up the hill and getting it situated, and it's just been fantastic. So let's go ahead and take a walk over there and see if we can get in the container and take a look around at some of the things that I'm doing there. Be patient with me. Now you can see on the roof there's some black plastic. I've never really had any leaks. I had one little leak for a while and then it stopped. But 5 or 6 years ago I put black plastic up there, and I think this summer it's probably time to replace it. I think it was $70 for the entire roof for 5 years. That's pretty frugal. Now before we go in the cab, I want to show one thing that I did this trip. I'll try to show it to you. But from my mother's estate, I got some wind catchers, I guess is what you call them. And so I loaded those up into the tree. Let's see how easily you can see those. They're hanging there in the tree. Then I have over here a little more. There we go. We also have a bell. And those, boy, it's not windy now, but when it's windy, they really let you know that the wind is coming up the valley, and that's kind of fun. I enjoy it. The other thing that you might be curious about there is, what is that post with that plastic bottle on top of it? Well, you can see a green cord that goes up into the tree. That's my AM antenna. And once we get into the cabin, you'll see where I have a radio. Well, inside the cabin, there's no reception at all because it's a metal box. So I have that, and that gets me AM radio, but we're so remote that it's only good when there's no sun around. The sun's got to be on the other side of the planet if you want to listen to the radio, at least with the radio that I have. Although I did have, for a while, I had a shortwave radio up here, and I did listen to New Zealand and China and Cuba and a bunch of that's quite possible with this same setup. So I need to get another one of those kind of radios. All right, let's go ahead and go in the cabin and see what we can see. Open the door. Right here by the door, as you're looking in, we're still outside, is the stove in the kitchen and all that kind of stuff. And we'll go inside and try to talk about that if we can. I'm going to put this down a little bit so it's a little easier to maneuver. There we go. All right. You step up, and then we're in the cabin. And here in the kitchen, well, first of all, you can look here. There's a map of Washington State, and above it, there are some of the awards my daughter got a while ago when she was in middle school, and they're still up, and I'm still proud of her and what she's done. But right here next to it, this is the tool corner. And of course, when you're off the grid, you need shovels and all kinds of tools. And that's where I keep them, right close to the door so that they're out of the way, but I can still get to them. Let's take a look at the kitchen. First of all, that's the stove there. It's just a one burner, and it uses little propane canisters, but it works great, and I really like it. This is the work area for the kitchen, and I've got a couple of my Sierra cups there. I use those a lot. They're handy. That's why they're so popular, at least they used to be. And you can also see that there's a couple of Dutch ovens there. The first one I got at a garage sale for $1. I'm kind of proud of that. And it's one that I use all the time. I like it. And the high walls mean that it doesn't splatter grease around or whatever if I'm cooking it, just for $1. Now I do have a confession, and that is that the knob on top, I had to go to Home Depot or Lowe's or someplace and buy a knob, and that cost me $2.50. So I guess I'm into the Dutch oven for $3.50, is it? Yeah, there you go. But it just works wonderfully. Now the other one is a Lodge, and I like that one a lot too. And if I were buying one, if I were suggesting to somebody to buy one, that's the one I would suggest. And the reason is, it's a great Dutch oven with a lid. As you can see, there's also a frying pan. The lid is a frying pan, so it's kind of dual function, and it works really, really well, and I really like it. Now, the other thing you want to look at here, you can see the knives, but there's my water system. I haul water here because it's off the grid, and I can get it. There's a couple jugs full of water by the door, and it works pretty well. But here's one of the things that I just got that I'm still in the testing phase, and I want to show it to you. There is a shop light that is a solar charging shop light. Again, I'm off the grid, so I don't have electricity. And one of the problems in this corner was that the windows are farther down the structure. So when you go to close this window or this door, all of a sudden it's kind of dark. You can still see some things, but it's kind of dark. But this new light, I think, is going to change things for me if I can get it to work. So I can show you. It's one of these things where you need two hands. There we go. Now, if there's no sunlight out, you can see all of a sudden I've got lots of light. It's really quite nice. And that light is rechargeable. So I actually bought two of them. You can see the tool barrel, but I bought two of them, and the other one is now charging in the window, and you can take a look at it. But I use a lot of candles, and I lit these candles also right now just kind of so that I could show them to you. In 2008, when I came back from Beijing, I had gone to the Tianyi Pifa Shichang and bought 3 cases of candles, storm candles, like the ones that are burning there. And I just brought up the second case. So I use candles pretty freely up here, and they're inexpensive and they're nice and they're kind of warm, but they only have a certain level of light. So this new light system that I have, I think is going to make a world of difference, because it just really works. And if it recharges from sunlight for 8 or so hours, then you've got enough light so that you can cook your dinner with real light. And that sounds like a real game changer for being up here, because the alternatives are things like this, which are battery, or this one, which is also battery, but you got to buy those batteries and so on. And the idea of having something up here that you could just recharge every day and then use in the evening, I like that. There we go. We got to get this thing off. There we go. Now let me show you my wood stove and the wood system. There's the wood stove. It's not on now, but I have these boxes and I have wood in them, and there's a bench that I use for cutting and chopping wood and such. And one of the things that I think I really want to share with people is the teapot water heating system I have. A lot of these hunters have these fancy stoves with a little attachable box on the side that you can heat water with and get it out of the spout and so on and so forth. And that really, it's not that handy. Whereas this system, these teapots are mostly from Goodwill or secondhand. And when I use that little grate under the teapot, the water will not come to a boil. It just gets hot. Now, if I want boiling water, I'll take the teapot and go put it on the stove for a minute, and it's boiling, believe me. But the flexibility of having multiple teapots like that on your stove is so much nicer, and being able to move it around the cabin or do whatever you want with it really is better than having something attached to the side of the stove. And so that's a lesson that I learned over time, and I really think I really think it's something that people should think about before they spend a lot of money on a fancy attachment that, well, it'll heat their water, but that's all I have then. Basically this morning I took a bath out of that closest big round one, but that was enough water for me to have a good bath this morning, and it worked really well. Now this is where I keep all my utensils, and one of the things I want to point out are those 3 cast iron. There's a frying pan, 2 skillets there, or a skillet and 2 griddles, I guess is what I want to say. Those are all from the 1800s. And I like to make pancakes in them, and they work really well. And so you don't always need new stuff. Again, these are all secondhand store purchases and inexpensive. But the two griddles are probably about 1880. And so for me, it's just remarkable to think that somebody was making their breakfast on those when Chief Joseph was a young man. I think that's really, really cool. All right, let's go a little farther into the cabin. Here is my dining room table. Let me see if I can get into a position where you can kind of look at it. And there's a couple things that I want to point out. There's a frying pan that when I'm here by myself, I like to use that. On the right is the radio under that cloth so that it doesn't have sun hitting it. But I have a candle there too, and at night you're sitting there and you're having dinner, and it's dark already, and you light the candle. It's really kind of pleasant. But in the window above, you can see there is one of those solar charging shop lights that's hanging there. It'll just hang there all day and collect, recharge the battery. And then I've got the battery that really, if we look back now at that end of the cabin, it's nice and bright. So if it turns out to be as good as it seems, that's going to be a great addition to the cabin up here. So what else can I tell you? You can see the plates. The one on the left is, I call it my George plate. That's the kind of plate that George Washington probably would have had or eaten off it sometimes. And these just fit on top there. And that's really great. So that's a whole lot better than those kind of flimsy plastic import junk that ends up in the landfill in terms of something to hold your paper plate. The rest is pretty much self-explanatory, but let me show you this one thing. You don't always want to have a fire. And sometimes that's a little heating, device for for keeping big containers of food warm. But the way it's set up with this is I can put water in this little teapot, and in, 20 minutes or so, I've got water enough to make hot cocoa or coffee or whatever I want. And it's, very efficient off the grid. All right, let's look over here. One of the things that I like to do also, I use pellets a lot up here. And the way I use pellets is I put them into egg cartons or egg crates, and then just put them into the fire, and they burn really, really well. But this morning what I did is something a little different, and I'll show it to you. I made fire starters. And here's one that I made a while back, and I'll put it up there so you can kind of see it. That's just a piece of an egg crate, and it's got some of those pellets and some wax in it. Well, because I use candles, over time I have all those little left ends of the candles. So I melt those on the stove, and here's what I do. Now this one I haven't cut up yet, but there is a number of fire starters there that'll last for quite a long time. And that's fun and frugal and works, and boy, it just really helps to start the fire to have something like that. And if you look here, you can see my pantry, I guess is what I'd call it. And down below you have all those things in glass jars. That just keeps everything fine. And then I have some canned goods and spices and so on and so forth. And then right up here above is this mount that my friend Ron made for me and left here. And that's from a cougar kill. A cougar killed that buck about 70 yards from the front door here of the cabin. It would have been last early fall, I guess. Yeah. And Ron took that and cleaned it and made it all nice and everything, and gave it to me, and I really do appreciate that. those things on the shelf there, the glass, those are like evening or night lights in the cabin. And what I use are these tea candles, this kind of little tea candle, and they work, 4 or 5 hours, 6 hours before one goes out. So, you go to bed at night and you want to have a little light in the cabin. If there isn't any moonlight coming in the window, you can have one of those going. It really, really works. Okay, here is my desk. We looked at a little bit with fire starter project, but that also, you can also see my ham radio. And right up here above, this is the power pack for the ham radio. And I'm going to unplug this. This is for the cell phone. And then we're going to plug this guy in. We got light there. Turn that on. And we're going to turn on this. Oh, you got to turn this button first, silly. All right, now. Okay. Now, I can communicate with Ray, my friend down the valley, with this, but I can also do other things too, and I'll show you. And that's the weather report, and I can get that anytime. It tells me the weather that's coming in, and it gives me the weather for this entire region, and that's kind of handy. It's just kind of fun. Well, it sounds to me like I need to enjoy the weather today because it's going to be different tomorrow. I'm going to go ahead and turn that off just so you can see it. But the other things I have here, there's the bear spray, first aid kit, and just things that you want to have for being prepared. And behind the radio in there, you can see I've got a lot of batteries. Well, those all cost money. And so I'm really hoping that the rechargeable solar system works. Okay, we'll go to the one last area of the cabin to look at, and that is the bedroom. You can see I've got clothing hanging up there. And there's my bed. And there's a portrait of Chief Joseph. And where the chair is, I can also put another bunk when I have a friend come up, but oftentimes I'm here by myself. And so I prefer to have the space, and it's much nicer to have that the way it is. Now, I would like to show a couple of other things that may not be readily apparent, but it's important if you're thinking about doing something like this. The feng shui, or as a Kansas farmer would say, the common sense of to use the advantage of the sun really is important. Now, to our left, where the windows are, is facing directly south. And so you can see there's sunlight coming in. And in the morning, the sunlight goes from that second window all the way to the toolbox. And so that whole area has light about 8:30 in the morning. There's light coming in that whole distance. And it's really very nice. Now, in the evening, the sun is in the west, and so the light comes to the desk and into the bedroom. And that's all passive. It's just there, and you can use it all the time. So if and when you're thinking about doing a cabin or trying to do some other kind of thing like this, make sure that you have thought about the feng shui or the movement of the sun and the way it works so that you can take full advantage of the passive benefits of having that sun. It really makes a difference here. The other thing I would say is in this container cabin, one of the first things I did was put up this shelf. And you can see there's just a lot of stuff stored up there. And that's really kind of handy. And it's also easy to get to and easy to see, so that if you're not up here for a little while and you come back and say, well, where did I put that cup? Well, you can probably see it because it's on the shelf. And that pretty much brings us to the end of this long narration about my cabin at the Okanogan Forest Channel. Let me open the window and again show you outside. There are the two flags and the pad. It's early spring 2025, and there goes the little buddy with the peanut. I don't know if you saw him. He's kind of going over the side of the hill. And I hope you got something out of this. Enjoy the day. Thank you for stopping by the Okanogan Forest Channel.